And we're live. Good
Hey,
evening. Hey, all you Minties. How are you? Already got quite a few people in the chat.
Yeah, thanks for joining us for the Old Reader, New Reader. Today it is Amanda and myself again. Omar is busy celebrating some family things, so he is not joining today.
No, just us guys. So yeah, and let's see, we got a couple people. Lionheart, it's Omar's first night back. Well, he's might not show up. He has more birthdays to come. It's that time of the month or that time of the year. A lot of people are born in December. Who knew? So unfortunately, we may not be getting him this evening.
Shit.
And nope, we are liars, guys.
I didn't think you were coming.
We've been telling everyone you weren't showing up. So now. He may still not show up, guys. No, we can't hear you. And he's left again, guys.
Just one of them. Paul Peterson says this will be a Dan Slott love fest or hate fest. I wonder, or will this be?
Yes. It'll be interesting. It's funny because Maddie had mentioned it last week, so I had to go and watch the Marvel 616 episode called The Marvel Method. And it's featured. It's all about Dan Slott and getting the first issue of Iron Man 2020 out. That happened, earlier this year. And so it was really interesting to see him go through the process after getting to read this again. So that was fun.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, we lied to everyone in the beginning. We said that you weren't going to be on tonight. So that was a nice surprise.
I thought about it because it's my kid's birthday, but I haven't been on for a while, so I figured it was it's 8:00, so it's time to get in here, do a little of this. I can't leave you all alone. We're talking about some heavy historical things happening in Spider-Man.
We are, yes.
See, Michael, Omar was late to the show on purpose because he wanted to make sure that he was really channeling Dan Slott.
Yes, and he was doing a good job.
So
we have to pick up the slack. Just like all of his creative team.
Have you watched episode 616 yet? I heard about it, Omar.
Yeah, have you watched it, Omar?
Yeah, I watched it. I watched your show last week to see how you two did. How you two. Damn, I can't even talk.
How we did? Thank you.
How you two did, and you did awesome. So, and then you were talking about it, I think, and then how you should watch it. And I watched it. I watched that one, and then the Brute Force episode. That one was funny.
I watched the Japanese Spider-Man one. That was interesting.
The Dan Slott one, it's like every other documentary. You got to take it with tongue in cheek. I'm sure there's a lot of playing around that they're doing. It really reminds me of the. I don't know if y'all watched The Toys That Made Us.
Yes.
When they just made this whole drama between Eastman and Laird, and anybody that had ever followed Eastman and Laird knew that the two of them had made up. And in the documentary, it made it look like they made up because of the documentary, and that was kind of ridiculous. Like anybody that followed both of these people from the TMNT days knew that had already happened. But I'm sure there's a lot of writers like that are
guarantee
late. And I love the fact that Christos Gage was in it because I'm a big fan of his Avengers Academy and Mighty Avengers run.
Yeah, and he does, and he's he's listed as like a co-writer on these.
Yeah, pretty much when Dan Slott can't do a dialogue,
he finishes.
Christos Gage steps in, he's like, I got you, my dude. I got you.
I was like, wow, now these names make more significance for me because of that little documentary on Disney Plus. Thank you.
I was hoping to see some of the people that I talked to at Marvel in their offices, but I didn't get to see anybody in that episode. I was looking. I was like, any editorial and stuff. So, it's good to be back.
Yeah.
Need to work out the kinks, so I can't speak really pretty yet.
I can't. Yeah.
I can't. It's been a minute. It's been a minute.
I know, and I'm the one drinking the Hallmark wine this evening, which I told Maddie about.
I brought my cider out because I was going to do wine too, but I have to work early.
I've been pretty good. I've kind of slowed down a little bit, but I'm sure that will change. Like
it's the holidays.
Oh yeah.
So it's just one of those times we're all
I really don't need a reason to drink. I mean, any reason is okay with me.
Yeah.
I just kind of I'm drinking water today.
So for today's reading,
Yes,
Yeah,
for today's
hi.
reading.
Hope
if anyone
everybody's
happens
doing well.
to have not read this
We'd be
and would be
fine.
interested after the show, checking it out, this is available through Comixology Unlimited also, which has been great because so far, like sometimes I have digital copies, but I want to read guided reading depending on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is good for guided reading. So
Yes, 100%.
the plus.
Yes. That's the good thing about having those Comixology or the Marvel Unlimited apps, so that these things that are on there. Now, I have them in oversized hardcovers, at least the first 28 issues that we're reading for this. That's why we didn't read the last half of it, because I don't have those. So we stop at the Osborn identity. That's where we kind of stop. So for any of those who've gone past, I think Hayden had asked if we were getting to the Red Goblin. No, that's later on, and we don't make it there. So, where Nick Spencer's run takes place afterwards in 2018, we don't, the demise of Parker Industries, spoilers, we don't get to see any of that in these.
Yeah, so everything with this like clone arc.
Yes.
And we mean this clone arc, not the other clone arc.
Because there's lots of clones.
Can I
People
can I
love
give
cloning Peter Parker.
Quick little history on how we got here?
Sure.
The
to
Secret
worldwide-
Wars? Oh, okay.
To
Go ahead.
worldwide. Okay, so really quick, the events of all of this take place after one more day, meaning that nobody knows who Spider-Man is. There's only a select few people that know who Spider-Man is, including some of his friends and then workmates. This also takes place after the best Dan Slott series ever, which is Superior Spider-Man. It's amazing, and we should read it one day. And that is where Doc Ock, dying body, switches his mind with Peter Parker's mind. Peter Parker dies inside of the body of Doc Ock, and then Doc Ock swears that he's going to become a better Spider-Man. He's going to become a superior Spider-Man. And then we had Spider-Man come back again because, they can't keep Peter Parker down, not for more than a year. And actually, he was gone for a couple of years. But we had some big events. We had Spider-Verse happen after that event. So we were introduced to the characters of Spider-Gwen. We're introduced to the characters of all characters that show up here. Kane makes a return, and Kane was one of the original clones during the Clone Saga, the original 90s Clone Saga, not the original Clone Saga. But he makes a return here.
Yes.
And it's important to talk about the Clone Saga in the 90s because that's a big part of this. And there's going to be spoilers, so keep that in mind. And yes, I agree, Lionheart. Superior Spider-Man does need to be an omnibus. I agree with that. But I think, I don't know where I would start. Either big, brand new day or big time. Like, I think one of those would make a really good omnibus. But that's where we are. Now, Peter Parker, takes place after Secret Wars, and he's kind of become Tony Stark of the Marvel universe.
Because of Doc Ock. Because Doc Ock created
Superior Spider-Man.
Because of Superior Spider-Man. And it's funny that people are asking about the omnibus, because when I had posted on Friday about what issues we were doing, everyone was like, you tricked me. I thought you were going to announce a Amazing Spider-Man omnibus, and we didn't. That's not what we did. We were just giving you what we were reading, and I apologize for faking everyone out.
No. That'll be a big announcement. I don't know. I don't know if they'll go Superior Spider-Man first, or if they'll do Dan Slott's run. I mean, Dan Slott had a run on this for 10 years, I think?
Yes.
He was one of the big brain trust during the Mark Waid and Bob Gates, Bob Gale, the guy that wrote Back to the Future. During those years, he was one of the brain trusts that did that, and then he kind of took over the book.
Yeah, and he took a little bit of time off and started Fantastic Four. Yeah.
So that's where we are with Peter Parker, and again, we're going to be talking about some spoilers, so keep that in mind.
Yes.
Ladies, who's taking the helm?
Oh yeah. So so we have issues 1 through 28, and there are several larger storylines that kind of interweave themselves throughout these issues. The first one being the big storyline we get in the first six issues or so is the Zodiac story, where Peter Parker, he has his own company, and now he's worldwide. He has headquarters in Shanghai, in London, in the West Coast. And I don't know if he's the best person for being a CEO, because he wants to do good. He doesn't want to be Tony Stark, but at the same time, people are always constantly worried about profits, and he doesn't seem to be worried about profits, and he just wants to help people. But I think
still puts on the suit even though he should be heading to work. And
Exactly. He's always putting on the suit, and people don't know who he is still. Remember, only a select few people. One of them being Mockingbird or Bobby Morse. One of my favorite characters. I wish would get more time. I've read her little small saga that they did recently, but I wish we get more Bobby Morse because she's cute and blonde, and I could cosplay her. And I think her and Peter would be good hooking up together. They look like a good match to me. Anyway, so they're off trying to uncover Zodiac's secret layers right now. Zodiac is led by this man named Scorpio. We don't know his identity in the beginning, but obviously all of his henchmen are different Zodiac signs. You have Aquarius, you have Capricorn. The Gemini are his two twin people who give him like the future. They can tell him the future, his horoscope for the next day. So he always is one step ahead, right? He always knows what's going to happen. And he's preparing himself for something big, and we don't really know what quite that is yet. And he needs to use Parker Industry and his technologies and stuff to do that. And they're able to get in and access stuff. And Peter has to kind of go on this, small adventure or, spy to figure out who's, the mole inside of his company. He wrongly accuses Sajani, I think is her name. And while it's someone else we learn all along, and he's trying to do this while he's working with S.H.I.E.L.D. as Spider-Man. Spider-Man is his bodyguard and the mascot of Parker Industries, but no one knows they're the same person. So that's the first story arc. And then there's another story arc that's kind of woven in there. And that's with this new superhero that's all of a sudden shown up called Regent. And he's this big dude, and he's taking bad guys out. And so we have that storyline that's kind of in these first few issues. And then we're also introduced to this man who looks like the Jackal, or wearing a Jackal hat, or helmet, or whatever you want to call it, mask. And he's bringing old people, loved ones of Peter Parker's old foes. He's bringing them back to life to get his old foes to work with this guy. So you have that going on. And this is all happening like really like this first oversized hardcover. Dan Slott sets up a lot of stories right off the bat, including we see the return of Norman Osborn. Now you see him here, and then you won't see him again until we get to the end of this one. And that's the third one.
So it's also important to note that when Peter's working with S.H.I.E.L.D. during this time, it's not Nick Fury that we're used to in the Marvel comics. It's his son that appeared in that Battle Scars issue. And of course, his son looks just like Samuel L. Jackson from the movies. And that is now the Nick Fury. So that's ridiculous. But Nick Fury Jr. is the person running S.H.I.E.L.D. during this time.
Oh, I thought he was the ultimate Nick Fury from like when they did the merging of the universe.
They did that, and I don't know why they didn't keep that, but instead they decided to create a son for Nick Fury, and
that was black.
He runs it. So
because Miles Morales is from the Ultimate Universe, and he's into our world now. Or into 616.
I don't know why they didn't keep Nick Fury from the Ultimate Universe, but they decided to create a character. I think it was like 2010, like 10 years ago, they created this character.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's what that is. So there you go.
Nick Fury's Junior's mom's genes are strong. That's right, baby.
That's right. So, and then through all of this, you have a small story arc where Mr. Negative comes back for a little bit, which I like the character, but he's quickly used for a short storyline of wanting to kill this ex-gangster who's now kind of reformed his ways and is trying to do good in Shanghai. And Mr. Nate comes back. He has somehow gotten Cloak and Dagger under his power, and he manages to use them to try to control Peter Parker, because he doesn't know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So he doesn't know that his touch only works once. Well, he knows it only works once on people, and he already used it on Spider-Man. So therefore, technically, it's not going to work on Peter. So there's the whole thing. But that's a small storyline that kind of, is thrown in there as well. So the main storyline is the score that we get from this is the Zodiac. So him and S.H.I.E.L.D. are working to pretty much find the Zodiac, find out where their layers are. He ends up taking Nick Fury on a rocket to go to outer space to find one of their bases. But Scorpio's always a step ahead of him, and we come to find out it's because he's using some of Parker Industries technology, like some of this advanced technology, to see into the future, and at least for a day, and that's kind of how he's using it. And so they're trying to go together and stop him from whatever. They don't really know what his end goal is at this point, but they just need to get to him because he's done a lot of destruction. He's killed people. He's turned people into his Zodiac force or whatever, and his minions. And so him and S.H.I.E.L.D. are trying to stop them as any means possible. And so when they finally are able to do that, they come to find out that Scorpio is actually a shareholder of Parker Industries named Vernon Jacobs. Vernon Jacobs is just an rearranged alias for, I think it's Vernon Fury, which is Nick Fury's
oh gosh, this history too.
great grandson or nephew, great nephew. So he's related to Nick Fury. He's really Nick. Yeah. He's like his great nephew or something like that. And so he has this Zodiac key, which is passed down in the Fury family. Which is, I've never knew that existed as a first-time reader. I was like, oh, they have a lineage with that? Cool. And he uses it at the Prime Meridian, which for those who are not familiar with the Prime Meridian is where time starts for our world. That's kind of where, like, that's zero time, right? Greenwich, like, that's the zero time. And so when all the what are those things called? Stars align. Okay, when all the stars align, this thing appears, his doorway, and he uses the key, and he can see a whole year into the future. And he starts to shouting all these little tidbits of knowledge that we kind of like, you can kind of hint will be coming in the Spider-Man storyline. And the only thing Spider-Man knows to do at this point is to kick him through the door, shut the door, throw away the key, and realize, okay, I've kicked him into a year in the future, so we have a whole year to figure out where Scorpio is and defeat him at that time. So that's kind of the Zodiac storyline right there in a nutshell. Then you have the Regent storyline, another small storyline where you have Augustus Roman, who owns Empire Industries, another big industrial complex there in the Marvel universe, alongside of Alchemex and Hammer Industries and all these guys, all these big companies who must make lots of money off the U.S. government. I'm not sure. And he has created a superhero, like super strength prison to keep those with superhuman strength, their abilities that are bad, locked up. Come to find out, he's actually using it to get their powers to become the ultimate superhero. And now his mission is turned to actually capture real superheroes and get their powers. And when he sees Iron Man and Spider-Man at it, because Iron Man's trying to recruit Miles Morales, and Peter Parker gets a little bit jealous and a little angry because he pretty much is calling Peter Parker and Parker Industries lame, essentially. They have a little tiff, and that's when Regent uses his plan to capture Miles Morales, and then he goes and captures a bunch of our different superheroes, Captain America, Lady Thor, all of them. He captures a bunch of them. Thor. Okay. Well, for this, it's obviously we still have Jason's Aaron's Jane Foster's Thor. So he captures all of them. And so now Peter, of course, Peter's friends have already figured this out because he also ends up capturing Harry Osborn, or Harry Lyman, he goes by now, because he's trying to get rid of his father's name. Because all these things, that's a backstory, a plot from way long ago.
That's really quick.
Yes.
After one more day, Harry comes back from the dead, because Harry had been dead for about a decade before One More Day. But after One More Day reset some things, not everything, from Peter Parker's life. One of the things that happened was they brought Harry back, and that's why Harry has no recollection of Peter Parker being Spider-Man, but he does remember Norman being his father and being the Green Goblin.
Gotcha.
Carry on.
No, you're good. And he also, Betty Brant, who's still a reporter at the Daily Bugle, she's the one, her, Harry, and MJ, because MJ's kind of dating Tony Stark at this point. And she still knows Peter is who Peter is, I believe, because the way she talks, she knows who he is, but she knows that he doesn't want to. And they have these weird little, like, she's like, you still want those secret identities? And he's like, this is why we don't have these conversations. Those kind of interactions. So the three of them are having lunch, and they figure out Regent is Augustus. So when Betty Brant goes to confront him, then he captures Betty Brant. So then, of course, once MJ alerts Peter to the fact that Augustus Roman is regent, then they have to go into action. They have to defeat Regent. MJ gets to put on the Iron Spider suit for a little bit, and she gets to fight. It's a big fun
that was a really cool scene because she remembers when she had spider powers in the Spider Island crossover, and she had worn the spider outfit before during the other storyline. So that was really cool how Dan Slott did his homework and connected all those stories together.
Oh, he did a good job. There's a lot of Spider-Man history in these.
Yeah, there
100%.
is. I'm curious to see what you two thought, but go ahead.
No, yeah. So they're able to defeat Augustus, and basically, with the help of his friends, they break the superheroes out of their little prisons, and then all of a sudden, now Augustus is like, it's Spider-Man, but also the rest of like the Avengers. And then they're like, pretty much stand down. You don't have a chance. So that's kind of how the Regent storyline wraps up. And at this point, that's really where like this first hardcover ends, and then we kind of get into the big Clone Saga, which is pretty much the majority of the next few sagas. Now, Omar had mentioned the Spider-Man storyline. Does anyone else want to kick it off, or am I supposed to just?
Well, I just realized I fucked up. So
you read Superior Spider-Man and not.
You read Superior.
Well,
that's
no, not that, because I read just all of the clone conspiracy. So that includes.
So you're an expert on the clones conspiracy.
I'm wicked good on that because I read all of the books about it. But I did not read all of Dan Slott's Spider-Man. So that was my bad. So when it's like it said,
you didn't read the Gwen Stacy issue. That's one of my favorite issues.
Gwen Stacy's in the Clone
but it's
Saga.
part of the Spider-Man.
No. Yeah. So anything related to the clone conspiracy, whether it be whoever's book, Silk. The other one,
I see what
Prowler,
yes,
like,
okay, yes.
Those.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, so slowly as she was talking, I was like, oh shit.
You're like,
can't jump in and say anything. So I'm just like,
well, then let's get to the Clone Saga. And Maddie, why don't you kick it off? Let's talk about the Clone Saga.
Sure. So from where I was, I did know about Peter and having, Parker Industries and everything else. But where I jumped in was with Jackal.
11th issue of the story? Yeah.
Well, I guess a lot later, because I think it might have been like issue 19.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No biggie. It's cool. You guys. The comments are so good.
I know.
So where I jumped in was when we first get introduced to Jackal on this like a side and the side where we see him kind of his talking to Kingpin and some of the others, and we realize that he's brought back Gwen Stacy from the dead, and not as a clone. She's been reanimated. And we come to learn that he has also brought back other people, and through which he has started to create relationships with other people, living people on the other side, such as J. Jonah Jameson, whose I guess father is married to Aunt May.
Yep.
Now
older Jay. Yep.
So now they are connected in that way,
which is weird.
And Peter kind of comes across this as at the beginning as he's running into Rhino fighting Kingpin. He's like, okay, hey, what up, y'all good? What's happening? Yeah. And and that comes off of Jackal saying, hey, Kingpin, don't worry, we found your wife. Like we brought her back. And he's like, no, that's bullshit, and kills her. He's like, no, that's not my wife. She's dead. So he's already like, we already know he's going to be helpful as this goes along.
That scene was awesome.
It was really good.
And snaps her neck,
yes.
knowing that it's not Vanessa. Like, it's.
I mean, it is, but it's not.
Nah, I mean which is why. Honest. Okay, go ahead, Maddie. Sorry.
Now I'm not sure if I'm going to do a great job of putting this all together in my head.
I'll add a few things that I think.
Feel free to jump in if needed.
Yes. And don't forget, at this time also we have been aware before the Clone Saga that at the London Parker Industries, where Anna Marconi, which was a young woman scientist who Doc Ock's Superior Spider-Man was dating before they went. Okay,
She's
she's a little person. I thought it was so cool.
She is.
I never realized, like, it made me so happy to see representation, because the only little person I can think of have been villains.
Yes.
Right? Because people that are like, that tend to be minorities tend to be, they're like, okay, we'll make these people villain coded, right?
Yes. Unless they're in a fantasy.
Right, like Dr. Psycho. So I was pumped. I was like, yes.
You missed one of the greatest things that happened in the third arc, where he was like, okay, I realize we're in China. Did you read that part in the third arc? Not in the Clone Conspiracy, but in the third arc.
No, I was thinking about a different
part. So they're like beating up, like they're in China, and they're like, okay, I realize we're in China, but I feel really bad just beating up Chinese people.
And Bobby's like, really? He's like, I really feel bad about beating up Asian people. Bobby's like, why are you thinking about that, right? He's like, well, Spider-Man beats up people of all races. Like,
I really wanted to know your opinion on that, because I love that part. Anyway, go ahead, Maddie.
Anyways.
So basically Jackal is working to convince Peter of his own free will to join their group and buy into his vision. So as he's been connecting with people and bringing these people back to life, Peter and him kind of come head to head, because he's also, Jackal's heading this group called, was it New You? New You, which promises, like, different lung transplants, basically things like that, like replacing parts of your body. And that's what his company looks like. So at the same time that oh my gosh, why? J. Jonah Jameson's father is dying, he has a chance to use New You, but his father doesn't want to. So Peter respects his wishes, but they could have saved him, which, leads to another death in Peter's life. One, another of many, a long line of deaths. And eventually he is connected with Jackal. But before that happens, we also see a couple other characters from a different dimension-ish around here. And one of those is Kane. Okay, all right. Kane and Gwen Stacy, but not the Gwen Stacy that's brought back to life. This is Ghost Spider, aka, this otherworld Gwen Stacy. So she and Kane have teamed up. Turns out they have been going to other dimensions, trying to stop this from happening, because this happens over and over and over again. But in each world, Peter has been in on it. So they have not gone to Peter so far. They are kind of playing the edges of this.
And it's important to note too that during this time, when you hear the word Jackal, or when we're talking about the Jackal, everybody, including Peter, assumes it's Warren, right?
Miles Warren.
The original Jackal. So, because he keeps, and even the reader, you're led to believe that too, because
he's involved.
You see calling the clones of Warren what does he call them, Amanda? I can't remember. Something like clones, or he calls them something that makes you think like, oh, they are obviously.
And other people call him Warren. Other people call him Warren. So people,
Except for Gwen.
But other people like Fisk, all of them refer to him as Warren. So we are on the assumption that he is Warren, because that's what everyone else is calling him, that is interacting with him.
So basically, after a series of events, eventually he ends up getting Peter Parker as Spider-Man to the compound in which all of these clones or reanimated people they're living. And this includes all of Peter's old enemies, anyone who has died in Peter's life, except for Uncle Ben, is there.
Yes.
Everyone's families, everyone is back together. They are all there. And basically, Jackal tries to sell it as like, hey, no, we just want to make sure you have a clean slate. This is for you. So you don't have to have the blood on your hands.
It's like Haven, like all the people that have died in his past, including some of his enemies and like the reptile kids. Even though he had nothing to do with their deaths,
but he still feels responsible.
Deaths that are around him, and basically said, well, now they can be used as a force for good. You should join us. But the whole time, Peter's like, I'm getting. My Spidey sense is going off and getting some really weird vibes. This doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel good. So he ultimately says no, but part of the reason is because he realizes that Jackal is not just Jackal. It's Ben Reilly, his clone.
His clone.
That was one of the biggest twists I remember reading when this first came out, because
Not
Ben
expecting it.
had died in the Revelations story arc, which is the finale of the Clone Saga, and I mean died like he turned into ashes, died. So when it was the reveal of him being the Jackal, I mean, this was it was really tough to believe that, because he was he's a good guy, he's a superhero. He gave up his life to save Peter, and now he's doing these things. And
That aren't so good.
I can see the loophole, and we can talk about the loophole here in a little bit, how that works. But yeah, he's presenting Peter with Uncle Ben, like the Uncle Ben's
Remains.
like his
Yeah, like
coffin. It's
he's
dark.
like,
Like he
"You
pulled
can
him out of the
redo
ground.
everything. We can start over." And that's when Peter's like, "No, because if you could do this, you would have already, Ben would have been the first one, because
I
you
love that.
have my memories. You
know how
have
important he
my
is.
life story. You would have saved Ben first. So there's a reason why this isn't good." And he's already been warned by Cain about what this could look like, because Cain comes from a world where that happened, where he is that type of clone. He's already dealt with this degeneration, right? And he warns of what this can look like. Because right now they are subsiding themselves because they're taking this pill every day. But were they not to, things would go south.
Yes.
And so at that point, he's like, "No, I'm not going to do that. I can't." And they all go and attack him, and all,
Yeah.
hell breaks loose there, with everybody kind of helping him out. Gwen.
They'll
both
have the
Gwen-
carrion virus. Is what
Yes,
they end
carrion
up
virus, which is
having.
very much like a zombie, essentially.
Yeah.
They're
yeah.
becoming zombies. And and Ben Reilly had, his backstory, almost his reasoning why he's doing what he's doing. He goes on to explain it a little bit. He talks about how Miles Warren, after he had disintegrated,
Mhm.
picked up his remains and then reanimated him with his newer technology. It's not just cloning. And then he kept killing him over and over again in many terrible ways, drowning him, all kinds of ways, killing him, taking the air out of his, glass prison that he was in.
Mhm.
And eventually he was able to escape, kills Miles Warren, but then brings him back. Then he clones him and keeps cloning him because he needs his,
Well, yeah, because basically you drove him to a
His
point where he has
brain.
no other options.
He had no
So
other
what
option.
other options does he have but to
He wanted
exact
to stop.
revenge on Warren right then? Be like, "No, fuck you. I'll
Yeah.
clone you. You don't know who's who? Sucks for you. Now you know what it's like for me.
Exactly.
It's for me now."
Exactly. And now he's trying to do good in a warped way. Ben Reilly's trying to do good and figure out what that good is. But I think that his circumstances has warped his mind beyond
Well, yeah,
what
'cause he
right and
didn't
wrong
bring Ben
is.
back first, but he did bring Gwen.
Yes,
I love when he
of course.
tells
Still
him why
carrying.
he didn't bring Uncle Ben back. I thought that was a very powerful line, when he was like, "Because you know that he would tell you this is wrong.
Which
Yes.
is
That's why you can't do it." And
Yeah,
I was
because even
that-
if you
that's
have the power, you
I-
don't have the responsibility.
regardless of how I feel about this story, Dan Slott nails Peter's voice. Like,
Yes.
he knows how to write Peter
Oh,
Parker
yeah.
and Spider-Man. That's what I like about it. And granted, that was probably Christos Gage.
Yeah,
because he
or
did write
Christos
that
Gage.
issue. He did write
they
that
both-
issue.
Well, and there were so many good interactions too. Like, speaking of, Peter's voice, I really appreciated Peter's interactions with both Gwens.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's something that I really did appreciate, because you have his childhood sweetheart Gwen,
Mhm.
the one who he accidentally, killed, kind of, but not, complicated. And
that was harsh too, because she has her memories and she's
Right.
remembering how she's holding a grudge.
Yep.
which was hard to hear, because the first time we hear about her, like when we see her reanimated, right? She at the point when the Green Goblin has her on the built roof, right?
Yeah.
He tells her that Peter is Spider-Man, and she knows that Spider-Man, as far as she's concerned, Spider-Man helped kill her father.
Exactly.
And by the time she sees Peter, she knows, but she's paralyzed. She can't move. And she's like, "No, get away from me. I don't want to see you. You've lied to me." And then ultimately, he's unable to save her, and her next death, as we know. So she dies with this grudge, which she's able to actually talk to him about, which is beautiful. Because also
that issue was freaking wonderful. The "I forgive you" issue, like where it's just him and her, and they go inside the house, and they're joking around like they used to, And it's so hard
Yeah.
to see the love of your life like right in front of you, right? Because anybody
Yeah.
that has read Spider-Man knows that yes, he loves Mary Jane, but
He does.
end of the
But
day,
it's
the love of his life was Gwen Stacy.
Well,
And
it's-
Exactly.
I mean, if you look at House of M and all that stuff, all these alternate realities, it's always him and Gwen. It's
He stays
never
with
him
Gwen.
and MJ. So she's asking what happened afterwards and all that. And damn, there were some really good knockout moments in this little, just like 5 pages where they're inside this house
Mm-hmm.
about
and
him
it
hiding
really
his
pushes
feelings.
back alternate Gwen too, because he can't deal with it. And she's like, "No, I'm real. It's just different." And he's like, "No, I can't.
Yeah.
I'm here too." And it's just I love seeing the difference between the two of them, and I love seeing, his Gwen's reaction to the other Gwen. They feel like,
Yes.
"Oh,
She's like, a drummer, huh? That's weird.
that's really
Yeah.
that's really cool."
That probably was to me the highlight of the entire clone conspiracy. That and the big revelation of Ben Reilly. That was really cool. But yeah, I mean, it kind of like of course, the clones start deteriorating just because
As
they
it
can't
happens.
stick around. Some of them, some clones live, but that's another story.
Yeah, and ultimately Ben Reilly gets away.
He does.
Now we didn't talk about
Peter
Doc
doesn't
Ock
think
though,
he
because
does.
Yes,
Doc
that's what I was
Ock
saying.
plays
Doc
a
Ock.
huge role in this.
Yeah,
Plays a
Huge
very
role.
huge role.
he's so creepy.
Let's talk about that
Yeah.
for a second. So after Doc Ock is believed to be dead, going back into his body and just he put his conscience inside of this what was the robot called?
Living brain.
Thank you. The living brain. And then he lashes out at Peter in one issue and he was like, that's enough of that. Because Peter kept talking about, I can't remember what he didn't know that Doc Ock was inside of the living brain. He just was talking like he normally does. And then Doc Ock lashes out and they destroy this big robot. And then he goes inside of that little mini robot. And then he goes inside of the clone of his own body, which is so weird. There's a lot of things about this that are just...
comics.
It's weird.
Yeah, I know. But I can take some comic science and be like, okay, that's bullshittery, but I'm buying it. This, I was like...
But they had to build their flesh. The flesh had to be rebuilt in the chamber.
I know we're not getting into the review part, but the whole... I can clone them and get their soul back in there. That's never explained. There's no science behind that. It's
the only way
their essence through their DNA.
I don't know. I think so.
The only way Doc Ock is explained is because his soul
that's the only one that actually
is essentially in his little spider robot, and he goes in there and has to fight the previous mind that was in there, which is still Peter, and he has to fight it mentally, which is something else in and of itself. But this time he gets to defeat Peter, and he gets to take his own body back.
So when he gets his own body back, he fights the Jackal, and they have it all out. And then at the end of the day, they're both...
He grosses out Anna Marconi.
Yeah, just totally freaked out. Because they had during Superior Spider-Man, they had a relationship.
But it's funny because she loved Peter Parker as Doc Ock's mind, but she doesn't want Doc Ock because he's a villain.
Well, and he's shitty to her immediately. He's like, "No, you're my." He just gives super
creepy, and she's like, "Oh, get away from me!"
It's so accurate.
The guy that almost married Aunt May.
I'm like,
that's right. He almost did marry Aunt May.
There's an amazing scene in Superior Spider-Man because Peter's able to remember things that Doc Ock had done in the past, and one of the things was courting Aunt May into the bedroom, and Peter was like, "Oh God, please stop! I don't want to see this." And it's really nicely written. Okay, so let's go back to this because that kind of ends the Clone Saga. Both the Jackal, Ben Reilly, and Doc Ock are believed to be dead, but of course they're not. They escape in the aftermath, the Omega issue, and then later on, you see Doc Ock plays a big role in the Superior Octopus storyline, which is part of the Secret Empire. But we're not going to go there.
When I read all the related issues with Silk and Kane and
Prowler.
Prowler.
Okay, so
Gwen.
By the way, if you're going to get the Clone Conspiracy,
that's the one I read.
It's a freaking mess because they map the books this is even in the Comixology version. It is a mess because it's issues 1 through 5 and then the Omega issue, and then the Amazing Spider-Man issues. You have to keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And
that's very
they
frustrating.
did the same thing with Spider-Verse. I hated that.
I liked getting rid of read it.
Okay, wait a minute. You find a clone, bang, marry, kill. Oh God.
A clone of what? Spider-Man?
A clone of anybody?
Of anyone? If I find a clone of Spider-Man,
I'm a clone Rogue.
Oh, wait. Are we allowed to clone
real people?
The super chat, by the way, but are we allowed to clone anyone?
Good. Yeah, real people or
and how many clones? 3. Like if I had to 6
well, you
Spider-Man
have to marry
clones,
one. You have to kill one, and you have.
I guess I would.
Oh, if I could clone
Ben
myself.
Riley.
Oh, your own clone. Oh yeah, totally.
Gross.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to do all 3, right? Because there's just one option. It's like there's 3.
Yeah, I'd marry myself.
Bang
myself,
clone
and
myself
kill
3
myself.
times. If people were introduced to for the Spider-Mans, I would probably bang Kane. Nope. I'd probably bang Ben Riley, marry Peter, and kill Kane. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of
Kane.
I don't know.
He said yourselves. Where did you get Kane?
I don't know. I'm just making up like if it's gonna be Peter, if it was different Spider-Man clones, that makes sense.
Julia Carpenter, I'd marry her. Jessica Drew, bang her and kill. Oh man, what is her name? Araña, the really annoying Spider Girl. I cannot remember her name. Yeah, kill her. There, that's my 3. Maddie, 3 clones. Marry, bang, and I don't know. It's Lee's question. He had the super chat.
Jessica Drew was not a clone.
In my head, she can't be.
I read it. She was preggers with a kid.
Wait. She was also in Secret Invasion, where she was a Skrull, so semi-clone.
I would bang Peter, marry Kane, and I would kill Doc Ock because I hate him.
Oh, superior stuff. I guess he's technically.
You said bang Doc Ock.
So how about this? I would bang Ben.
Yes.
Ben Riley.
Marry Kane. And kill Doc Ock. Done.
Neither one of you 2 are a Kane girl. Really, that surprises me.
Peter Parker, he's just that
bad. I would marry Kane. I like him.
Oh, you marry Kane?
Yeah.
You don't marry a guy like Kane. You leave you at a bar.
No.
Kane does.
It's because I pick up those people that need fixing.
Oh, okay, you're one of those.
She would help get him. She would help get him the help.
It would be a one-time thing. I'm like, no, I'm not looking for good. He would immediately fall in love with me. That's what happens.
I've been in and out of the stream working on a presentation. What is happening? Slumber Party Games.
Somebody asked us, and we went to another level.
Chat, so we had to answer. All right.
We had to talk. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's how the clone conspiracy ends. The last arc, which Maddie probably, I don't know if she read, but it's not that many issues. So this takes place after the clone conspiracy. So keep in mind, all this stuff that's happening has Parker Industries' name on it, right? Because when the clone conspiracy is going on with the whole New You and their experimental drug, Peter Parker, they had created a explosion.
The mark of Cain.
Oh God,
I forgot about that.
Jeez.
Thank you, guys.
They created an explosion at one of their plants in Oklahoma, and when Spider-Man tried to go save the people, one of his employees was severely injured to the point of death. And so in his haste, he's told the lady at New You, go ahead and use your technology. So that man obviously is now dead because he had to take that pill every day to survive. His body degenerated. His wife is blaming Peter Parker and Parker Industries for her husband's eventual death. Everything that happened with the Zodiac and getting into the CCTV in London, all that stuff, Parker Industries is behind it. And now the clone conspiracy, you have all that stuff. So now we have Norman Osborn is back. We got the little hint of it way, way long ago where he was visiting a foreign leader of war, warmonger or war leader or whatever you want to call it. And basically him and Bobby are working to find Norman Osborn when they find out that he's back. Really, he like, I need a win. All these losses, he's had people die on him. He's had everything that's going on. He needs one win. So he wants to find Norman Osborn because he knows he's alive again. So
this is after he made a promise, no one dies.
Yes.
He said that
after Marla.
After J. Jonah's wife died, he made a promise. And then I really enjoyed that because that was a good conversation between him and Ben where he realizes it was a ridiculous promise to make.
Yes, exactly. Because it's impossible to promise that. So he's trying to find he's trying to find him, and when he shows up to Savekia, I don't know if I pronounce it wrong.
No,
It's
that's
where
good.
Silver Sable's from. So she shows back up, and he thought she was dead too. Turns out
Yeah,
she's
she
not.
died in End of Days, and she comes
Everyone is
back.
still alive, guys.
Oh, this cheapens so many deaths. I swear. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so she's back, and her mission is to kill Norman Osborn because basically him and the Countess, they are working together, and they have turned all of her people in her town into slaves
Hold on.
to build this. Okay.
This is a really good idea. Okay, I want an old reader, new reader, where the girls read something, but Omar doesn't know what it is,
Oh
and
my
they talk
God,
about
that'd
it
be
without
amazing.
saying what they read and see how long.
Perfect.
Amanda is pretty like in depth.
Detailed.
Where Maddie's like, I don't know, Peter Parker went out the window and Peter showed up, and I'm like, what?
That's
She
why
read the
I like
wrong
my
book.
summaries. You know what I mean?
She read the wrong
10
book.
minutes.
She read
Hey,
half
it
of the right
happens.
book. She read half of the right
I
book.
would say I owned up to it. I could have just like pretended and been like,
Like, oh yeah, that Norman
Osborn.
Osborn.
You could have been on Wikipedia, like what happened during Dan Slott's
While I
run.
was talking. Oh, it'd be funny.
Shake, you just nod your head. That's right, Amanda. That's exactly.
I mean, that's how it was going at the beginning, and I was like, no, I gotta tell people.
Yeah,
At least
I gotta say it.
Thank you.
Yeah, she said keep synopsis limited. Tina, have you watched any of the shows I do? That's impossible.
That's not possible. That's not happening.
Yeah, that's not
This is
possible.
about Spider-Man story,
People
not
literally
selected.
come to listen to me do my synopses.
All of Roger Stern's run has not been collected in epic format. That's my favorite Spidey stuff. All right.
Anyways, so Norman Osborn basically him and the Countess are basically essentially setting Peter up because Peter's people are all there because there's some Uncle Ben Foundation or Peter Parker Industries event going on, but it turns out a bunch of other people were invited by Norman Osborn that were bad people, thinking it's going to be some weapons demonstration. And it turns out it is. It's new and improved Goblin gliders, and everything's being broadcast. So now everyone thinks that Peter's and making this Goblin tech, and no one can see Norman because he's had his face redone several times by now, and it's all weird looking and monstrous. And so now people are thinking that Peter Parker is doing this bad stuff with weapons technology. Even Nick Fury by the end of this run is like, Spider-Man, we can't associate with Parker Industries anymore. So you have to leave what we're doing. We can't do anything with you anymore. So this is kind of where it ends up. And obviously it is setting up the eventual fall of Parker Industries because Nick Spencer's run in 2018 that starts with Ryan Otley as the artist. You see Peter Parker starting over. He talks about, because I read that too, and he talks about how I had a company, but then that fell apart, like the Parker luck. And he mentions that a lot of times throughout this too, that the old Parker luck, it's where Peter Parker basically has no luck in the world. Everything seems fine, and then something just messes it all up. And that's the Parker luck. And so it's everything from this point now is setting up the eventual demise of Parker Industries, so we can get Peter back to the bare bones. The Peter we all know and love, the one in the streets of New York who's just fighting the bad guys in New York City, not in Shanghai and London and everything like that. And that's kind of where we leave our reading for today. Norman Osborn does escape, but he goes to see Harry for a little bit. They do have a little bit of a standoff. And he basically... Yeah.
That was a really good fight. I really liked the dialogue between Norman and Peter, like when they're fighting, and how he pretty much cripples Peter into fighting him one-on-one, taking away every one of his toys. And Peter stands up and realizes that he doesn't give up.
Because he doesn't need the toys. He never did.
Damn it, I forgot to mention that my favorite line during the whole monologue between Ben Reilly and Peter was the speech about responsibility. How he brings it back to that. I thought that was a really cool and powerful speech.
Yes, I think so too.
This is gonna be an interesting review. Because
we kind of did a little bit of it.
Maddie really got to the big, like she skipped the fucking salad and went right into
I really liked what I read.
You right to the entree.
Yeah, you were like.
If I don't read any of the rest of this, I'm fine. I liked what I read, so.
Okay.
Done in time.
I have to say, this is an interesting time for Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes.
Because I think, to me, Superior Spider-Man was his magnum opus, and then Spider-Verse was really fun, and that era had some really cool story ideas. This one, it just seemed less and less like Peter Parker that I was used to, your friendly neighborhood. Spider-Man and more of a Batman Incorporated or Tony Stark kind of story, including, I mean, even the little glowing emblem that he had on his chest. His little almost like trick arrows, the trick webbing that he was using, like acid webbing and parachute webbing. It was really strange. And then just all the cast of characters that he had reconnected with that were brand new to Slott's run during Brand New Day and Superior Spider-Man, but I didn't really get to see like a lot of his old other cast members that I would have loved to have seen, because I know Bendis was using Mary Jane in the Iron Man storyline.
So we only see her a little bit.
Yeah, so you can see her. And I don't mind new characters, but interesting to see him working with S.H.I.E.L.D. I know he was an Avenger.
So it makes sense. And he was living in Avengers Tower for a while, according to MJ.
Yeah, they did. They did live in Avengers Tower for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The first 12 issues were kind of they were okay.
It was, I
like the setup. Like he does. That's one thing that I did like about Dan Slott's run, is he does build up a lot of these story arcs that will happen later on throughout the issues, and at the very end with some epilogues or some almost actually, no, I don't think there were any interludes. They were mostly epilogues. Yeah, mostly the epilogues were leading up to the Clone Conspiracy, which was his big story that he told. And Clone Conspiracy, out of all this, was the best thing. It wasn't the greatest story, but it was the best,
I think
at least to me.
I think it's because he got to be more Peter Parker in the Clone Conspiracy, whereas in the Zodiac and everything like that, he wasn't really the Peter Parker that we would come to expect. So I think that's why the Clone Conspiracy part sticks out the most. And you can see all of his old foes, and I think that, and all of these people from his past are dug up. And if you are a Spider-Man fan, or even a little bit hinting at some of, like, his story just a little bit, it's fun to see those faces pop up. So
it's I don't mind change, but it's got to be a difficult task to keep it fresh for the writer.
God, I mean, how many years has he been around?
10 years writing Spider-Man. This is towards the end of his run, but by now, he's kind of done everything.
It's true.
Maybe I'm a creature of habit, but I kind of prefer the older stories better because he was more grounded. And in this, he was kind of all over the place.
He was worldwide.
There were some really wonderful moments, like I said, though, like with Gwen Stacy. I think the dialogue is captured perfectly. What did you all think?
Well, I mean, this is my second time reading it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, as far as that's concerned, the first time I read through it, this is actually the first Spider-Man I think I've read at this point when I was reading it. I hadn't read, obviously, Nick Spencer's wasn't out yet, and I even read Kraven's Last Hunt or anything like that yet. So this is the first time I was ever interacting with Spider-Man. And for me, that was very interesting. I enjoyed the story the first time, but there were a few characters that I wasn't familiar with. And obviously, some of the callbacks to different storylines, since I had never read the previous stories, I was not too familiar with, especially like with Harry changing his last name and things like that. I'd never read where he had died and come back to life, so I had no idea that he would change his name and that he didn't remember who Peter was and all that stuff. So the second time reading it, I got to be a little bit more critical of it. And I think for me, the Clone Conspiracy was probably my favorite storyline. Obviously, that ending with Norman Osborn just was, I don't know. It didn't do much for me, except all it was doing was setting up that we are going to see Doc Ock and Norman Osborn in the last half of this story before Dan Slott ends it, which is fine. And then the Zodiac, I felt like was a lack of payoff for that character. It could have been an interesting storyline, but there's so much.
I found kind of boring.
Yes, I was expecting, like, they was trying to shove a lot of other stuff in there, put the Regent stuff in there, put the Mr. Negative stuff in there. So I didn't think it got it just desserts. And you were talking about how Dan Slott's really good at setting stuff up, and I agree he is, but I sometimes wonder if that's not at the expense of the current story that he's trying to tell. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it very well could be. because he's thinking the long game, right? Whereas most writers with I don't know, because he had a contract with Marvel, he had that benefit.
Yeah.
Where some writers are like, oh shit, this is my month-to-month job. I could lose it any day now. I better wrap up this story in 3 months.
Yep.
He can set up a year's worth of stories, and then the payoff is not for a year and a half later. Such is the case with the Red Goblin saga, because that all starts towards the beginning of Worldwide and doesn't wrap up until the end of Worldwide, which is where Red Goblin takes place.
Yeah.
Maddie, this is your first Dan Slott Spider-Man, correct?
Yeah, because I've read very limited amount of Spider-Man. A lot of
have you read much Dan Slott? Have we read any on the show?
We've read Dan Slott, Silver Surfer.
So
thank you.
Yes, we did do Dan Slott.
Yeah, which I loved. And then have I read?
Did you read She-Hulk? Dan Slott She-Hulk? John Byrne. You have John Byrne She-Hulk.
I read John Byrne She-Hulk.
Okay.
I may have read some of Dan Slott She-Hulk, but
what did you think of this? Because there is a lot.
What's granted, I only read what's in that collected edition you have of the Clone Conspiracy. I read his stuff, and I also read some things by other writers. I really liked the event, honestly. Like, I had a lot of fun with it, and that's with a basic knowledge of Spider-Man. Because I've only read a few stories, and luckily I've read some that are integral to this. And I think having watched Spider-Verse, that helps as well. And I've read Spider-Gwen. Because without Into the Spider-Verse, I wouldn't have known who Prowler was.
Yeah, it's not even the same Prowler.
It's not even right. Yeah, it's not even.
But still.
But and then this Prowler.
I knew who Ben Reilly was. Luckily,
yes, because we read that Spider-Man life story, and he was in there. So
right,
so we did do life story. I forgot. I was thinking I knew I'd reviewed it sometime.
But yeah, I really liked this. I thought it flowed well. I thought it was interesting. Regardless, the concept is very interesting. It's not one that I would have expected to see with Spider-Man, but I think that it is a good one to have, especially since, Spider-Man carries a lot of death on his shoulders. Like a lot of characters do, but I feel a lot with him.
It resonates with him. Yeah, I agree.
And with Gwen, I feel like he has dealt with a lot of death in a way that's very different than other comic book characters. Because he's still a positive, funny, quirky guy, but he feels a lot of responsibility for that. And I think that was
the best line that Gwen said about him wearing the mask.
I think that was well showcased in this. And I really cared about everything, and I cared about how this went. And I think it, I think it was an interesting concept. So I really liked it. I give it like a 8.5 out of 10. What I read, which is not all of it, but I really liked this bit. I do agree that it's collected weird.
Yes.
Yeah, the way,
because I read it and then basically had to reread what other characters had gone through for it. But I chose
the spider
to see
stuff
it.
is collected weird.
I chose to see it as okay, now that we finished the story, now we can show what was happening behind closed doors way.
Yes.
Because some series do that, right? So I chose to see it in that lens, which made me enjoy it more. But I liked it.
And the Clone Saga stuff's not even in like these oversized hardcovers. It's just the Amazing Spider-Man issues. So I had to go and read those separately in between in order to truly grasp it, or else, Oh,
one of the things that I don't know why we didn't mention is the art is 90% done by Giuseppe Capicoli. And he's the main artist on Amazing Spider-Man. And then the miniseries of the Clone Conspiracy is all done by Jimmy Chung. And I'm God bless. I love Jimmy Chung's artwork. I always have. I've been a big fan of his since the late or early 90s. But he can draw hella characters. And Giuseppe's artwork is solid too. I like his Spider-Man. I like the way his characters look, and he's a fast artist.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a super chat.
Guess you need that when you know you have to do it really quick because Dan Slott's probably going to be late again.
A quick artist? Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be quick to get it done.
And that was the thing about the documentary. Like, none of these books were late. They came out on time.
Exactly.
I've known so many comic books, oh my gosh, that just waiting 6 months for a single issue to drop. It's ridiculous. So these things are common in comics. Off topic, got the Red Goblin Epic Collection. You mean the complete collection, right? Haven't read it yet. Is it any good? Apologies for being off topic. It's a fun story. I'm not gonna spoil it, but that cover spoils who the Red Goblin is. You should definitely read it because it does have a lot to do with some of the stuff that's happening in Absolute Carnage, and it helps that with that.
So I need to jump off here before I do, because then we have a few more questions. Do you think it's new reader friendly? I'm not a new reader, but I'm not as deep into Marvel, and no Avengers title has ever clicked with me. I think it's new reader friendly because, like you, I don't read as much Marvel. I've read a lot of it, probably. And I know that Jessica's also into cosmic like me. But like her, there hasn't been an Avengers title that's ever really grabbed me, personally. But I really liked this. I think Jessica will too.
Yeah, if you're just reading the Clone Conspiracy, maybe, but after rereading the whole thing that we read from issues 1 through 28, I don't know how, I mean, you get the gist of the storyline. There are little nods, a lot of nods to previous storylines or previous characters. Like, for instance, he has a lot of, like, he has one of his old bad guys, Clash, who ends up reforming and working for him, and he's like, and he brings out his technology and because help with one of the fights, and Peter's like, never do that again. Like, I still, because I don't know who that is still. I
just a character that Dan Slott created, but then there's things that show up like Silver Sable, like a character from his run in the late 80s, early 90s, and then died in the end of days. Of course, all that took place during Dan Slott's run, but you still have to have a little bit of knowledge. I don't know. Anytime you deal with clones, that's an immediate turnoff for me. Like, whenever I suggest stories that have clones, it's always a no. I can't.
Well, I never know how.
Like, a lot of headache because you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. You don't know what you're
don't know.
for. You don't know the shock factor of like these characters showing up in this haven. So.
Yeah, I mean, I was a new reader when I read it the first time, but I think I was really reading it because it was the most current Spider-Man run at the time, and I love Spider-Man in general, so that's why I read it.
There you go.
There you go.
So Maddie gave it an 8.5 for the Clone Conspiracy. Amanda, taking everything into consideration, 1 through 28, including the Clone Conspiracy, what would you rate this run of Spider-Man Worldwide by Dan Slott?
7 out of 10.
7 out of 10,
and
a 6 out of 10 for me. 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10.
What about you guys in the chat?
Yeah, let us know in the chat. Okay, Maddie, you're on mute. Yep.
Shit. I've got a wicked early morning at work.
You're fine.
Normally I would stay a little bit longer in a chat, but I promise I will next week. So I've got to jump off. But
we're gonna hold you to that.
Yes, and next week's by Maddie.
What is next week? By Maddie.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Omega Man by Tom King.
Oh, cool.
That's what bye. And that's what you guys our Patreons had voted for was Omega Man by Tom King. We're super excited. I just got that probably 3 months ago, so I'm super excited to read it finally. So it'll be a first read for me, but that's one of my books I chose here. That was my first time read. Obviously, anything Marvel is something I already read, guys, because that's who I am. Anything not Marvel is definitely not.
It's a good read. And then later on, we have Nightwing Year 1, right?
Right before Christmas, which also excited to read that. Hickman's Fantastic Four. Oh, I'm so excited.
In Alabama during that week, and I have to take my Omnis with me.
I took off because it's my the day we review that is my actual birthday, guys, and so I took the day off from work for that bad boy. So I'm super excited. No, not to read it. I've already read it once. It's just a review now at this point.
Look at you. You remember everything from that. Okay, we're going to see.
Oh, I know. And yes, and this is funny because Hayden brought this up, and I know other people did too. But that is, how does Amanda feel about the Spider-Man 3 casting news? Me and Omar texted for this earlier, and I said, I'm definitely bringing it up tonight, considering that Dr. Octopus plays such a big role in these issues, and that is because they broke the news that Alfred Molina will be returning as Doc Ock for Tom Holland's Spider-Man, which is right now currently filming, which is very interesting and pretty much confirms, I guess, that we're going to get some type of Spider-Verse. So I guess it's only a matter of time until it's revealed that
are going to be shocked when he is Doc Ock from that universe and not from the Tobey Maguire universe.
And it's true, they could do that.
They could do that.
And we don't need any backstory, but I don't know. I mean, some people were saying that I saw a comment that maybe they're trying to do like how I know Doctor Strange is going to be in it. So obviously we get a hint at multiverses. I'm excited too.
Come on, how can I not be?
Maybe they use the
broke of that and all the rumors with Tobey Maguire and what's his face, Andrew Garfield. Oh my god! Like as a comic book nerd that has been reading these type of stories all his life, and then on top of that, they did it in an animated series and they did it successfly in Spider-Verse. And now with the helm of the MCU.
Yes.
Of course I'm excited. Who wouldn't be excited? Even the most haters out there that hate Tom Holland or hate the new Iron Lad or Spider-Man, whatever.
Iron Lad is the other kid, remember? It's going to be Harley. That's Iron Lad. I love that kid.
You're going to bring that up.
I'm always bringing that up.
He has a 6-movie deal with Marvel.
Yeah, Hayden. Okay, they're talking about Emma Stone, Kirsten Dunst, Andrew Garfield being. I will be.
Who's they? Who is they?
Yeah,
is this
bleeding cool? I don't know.
We got this covered. Is this we got this covered?
I don't know. Kirsten Dunst is gonna be an interesting one because she has openly denounced the current Spider-Man films. She has said that none are better than hers.
Take all that back as soon as she sees that check.
I guess it could.
You know what?
I'll just be very. And I don't.
It's actually a really good Spider-Man. This makes sense. That's exactly how that.
Yeah, well, with Disney money in your mouth, I guess you'll say anything. But I don't know. It's gonna be. I'll be interested. I don't think they need all of them to reprise their roles. Just the 2 Spider-Man. Because
you don't want it. You don't want it too big because then it stops becoming. This is something
about Tom Holland. It has to be Tom Holland, Spider-Man.
Okay,
why are we
call Spider-Man? Okay, let's just call him Spider-Man, not Tom Holland. But
Tom Holland,
but you're right. The Tom Holland version of Spider-Man. If you add too many things like the multiverse, then it becomes less of a Spider-Man movie, which we have not seen. We've not seen him be the friendly neighborhood. This is what I was talking about. Dan Slott's run. We haven't seen this kid be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's been in what was the Homecoming and then Far From Home.
Yes.
And that's pretty much taking him out of his element.
Well, it kind of makes me think, I wonder if they used any of Worldwide as kind of like a mapping point for this new version of Peter Parker that we're seeing. I don't know. They could have used a little bit of it. I could see it, especially the technology aspect and stuff, but who knows? But I'm excited to see it. Yes, that's true.
There.
She
Natalie
did.
Portman denounced MCU until they made her.
But they made her Thor. I mean, Kirsten does to come back as MJ. I mean, if I'm Natalie Portman said, "Oh, I'm coming back, but I'm not just Jane. I'm not just Jane Foster."
What if she's Iron,
now I'm Thor now. Natalie Portman is like
Iron Spider suit.
Okay, stop. Why would they make her that?
She could be from another reality, dude. Come on, this is.
I guess
the possibilities are. Well, I guess it can't be endless because
it's only a 2-hour movie, if that. Let's be careful.
Hey, we're getting a Snyder cut of 4 hours, right?
That's right.
HBO Max money like Gal. Dude, did you see that? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it'll be whatever they've done. It's going to be really interesting in the coming months to see how other companies like Warner Media react and follow suit or not, and how it's going to be very interesting indeed.
That's something people have been asking me when you and I are going to come back to do our show, because they've been asking me what I think about that.
I know, we need to talk about that stuff.
That deal to me, not to derail from this conversation, but that deal to me is kind of, you were talking about a movie that was supposed to make $500 million, and now, like, how are you going to even? How many HBO subscribers are going to, like? You're not even charging extra for that movie. It's free.
I have yet to see Mulan, and it's been free for a while on Disney Plus.
I mean, I'm sure I'll see Wonder Woman, but
I'll get to it when I get to it.
What? You'll get to you get to Mulan when you get to Mulan.
That's
Wonder
what
Woman
I meant.
84?
That's what I meant.
Okay,
on Christmas Day, I'll watch it. I mean, I'll watch it on Christmas Day.
Personally, not a fan of Andrew's Spider-Man, but it would be cool to see giant 3 Spider-Man crossover. I like his. I like the
Andrew Garfield
outfit, and I liked Andrew Garfield. I thought he was.
And now he can be an older Spidey. They can all, like, I keep thinking that Toby's going to be a retired Spidey at this point. Andrew Garfield's could be kind of, He's
in his 40s. Nobody retires in their 40s. Not even superheroes.
Good point.
Damn, quit making 40 sound old, Amanda.
Is he in his 40s?
Yeah, Maguire.
Okay.
Yeah, like early 40s, something like that. But yeah, when we bring the show back, we can talk about those kind of things.
Definitely.
Get everybody's opinion on that. But just like
All
Amanda,
right.
I'm really excited about Spider-Man 3, whatever
Yeah.
they're going to call it.
That's right.
Uh,
All right.
So-
So next week we do Omega Man. So I don't need to post anything about reading order. We know what that is collected as.
yes, it's 12 issues, maxi series from Tom King. So it's a good series, though. A lot of
Awesome.
9-page panels, so get ready for a lot of reading. Omar, what
I'm
you doing in
excited.
Alabama?
It's a good question.
A friend of mine wants to see me, so I was thinking about going down there. I haven't taken off this whole year to go do anything, and he ain't seen anybody, so I figured maybe take off for a week to go down there. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it, but may do that.
Sounds good. All right. Well, if that's it, guys, I guess we will see everyone next week. And thank you all for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and remember to follow us on all of our social media channels at @NearMintCon. Check us out on Redbubble if you want to get some cool Near Mint Condition merchandise, and make sure to also check us out on Patreon if you want to support us for only $1 a month or more. But that's the min. You can do more, but that's the min. More is always preferred, but that's the min. And remember, next week is Omega Man at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. And I guess if it's classy and cool, it must be Near Mint. You will see us next week. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will talk to y'all later.
Bye, everybody.